Do you worry that a virtual conference is viewed as just another boring video call meeting which no one engages with or even registers for? Because I'm about to show you exactly what happens when you shift that perspective and how I took a livestream conference from 400 to 4,000 delegates after only 6 months. In fact, it not only received incredible delegate feedback, but also got my client and her team recognised by their big bosses too. This is Katie. She's head of internal comms at a professional services firm. In November 2021, I worked with her and her internal team to produce an event for about 400 of their senior leaders across the UK. This event was entirely remote presenters, remote support team, and my super small remote technical team. And it exceeded everyone's expectations in terms of the production values possible, despite one or two glitches. So much so that within hours of it finishing, there was already talk of running a similar event to reach the whole firm, which is an audience 10 times larger than that of the senior leaders alone. In the past, the firm would run the senior leaders conference face-to-face, usually in a swanky London hotel, with the dissemination of messages to the wider group left to the office managers, combined with other centrally driven tactical internal comms. Unfortunately, this caused regional consistency variations in the method and calibre of delivery and, let's say, irritations between regions and offices. So the need for a conference where everyone gets to hear the messages at the same time was really important. I'd been trying for years to convince Katie to let me help her produce an all-staff event, but she never took me up on it because she could see the challenges and couldn't find a way around them. 1. Finding a venue which could accommodate 4,000 delegates is perfectly doable, but sourcing the bedroom space in the surrounding areas to be all of an equally high standard is near impossible in the UK. And 2, taking everyone out of the business for a whole day, getting them there, accommodating them all, food, beverage, etc., but to shut the whole firm down for a day would cost a fortune in lost revenue. Well, the obvious solution to overcome this would be to do it in smaller group sizes as a repeat event across a number of days. But doing it that way means there are bigger costs involved in venue, kit and crew hire, and staggering the audiences brings back the original problem of them not receiving the information at the same time. But finally, I had this chance to somehow make this work for her. This was a huge deal. The senior leader events were always considered a safe space where we could take a few chances and even get things wrong. But the tariff of risk associated with the judgment on Katie and her team if we messed up a gig for the whole firm was massive. The scale of this risk directly transferred to me because they'd been hiring me as their event producer for the last 17 years, and losing their trust on this event could end my relationship with them. Now, during the lockdowns, the CEO had been doing these all-hands Teams live events meetings on a sort of quarterly basis, and these had been going down a treat with everybody. The success of these little presentations reinforced what we already knew about the positive effect of being able to talk to everyone at the same time with the same content. But COVID was still bubbling along in the background. Would there be another variant, more lockdowns? The infection levels across the country were some of the highest we'd seen throughout the whole of the pandemic. And yet, thankfully, most people seemed to be avoiding serious illness. So by early in the new year, we had some reassurance that we'd at least be able to get the presenters and technical team together in one place. At last, we felt we had the flexibility to plan for the worst, whilst still hoping for the best. Finally, we had a solution which could deliver the benefits of bringing people together in office-based watch parties, thereby delivering the simultaneous information we needed without the logistical and budgetary challenges. My tactical approach was simple, just to make the event watchable. Not a boring webinar. Not death by PowerPoint that anyone watching remotely could just leave running in the background while they scrolled through social media on their smartphone. Not deploy a bunch of gimmicky interactive engagement features that then hardly anyone uses. Just put together relatable, authentic, open content in a way that actually holds people's attention because they're interested and the content actually means something to them. Shouldn't be too hard, right? But we weren't kidding ourselves. We also knew that a big part of what would make this watchable were the production values. We needed this to look as close to TV as possible. So Everything about our shows were considered as though they were television. This included putting together the agenda as a series of short 1-hour shows at half-day intervals across a working week, more like a TV series than a typical conference schedule. What we were hoping for is that these shows would be treated by our audience as appointment television. Of course, we were intending on making these programmes available on demand later too, but we were aiming for as much of a live audience as possible. Things were going great, until we had the realisation that since COVID restrictions were being lifted and more people were heading back into the office, we might have a situation where loads of people tried to watch the event from their desks on their individual laptops. Why would that be a problem? All 4,000 staff watched an awards event individually in November, so why should this be any different? Because everyone had watched that from their respective homes. The bandwidth in the office has limitations. But surely you just tell everyone who's in the office to watch the live streams to do it from the group spaces that have been set up, right? You'd think so, right? But in most cases, the number of staff who work in a given office far exceeds the capacity of the largest group space, so there would have to be people watching on their own anyway. So, lots of head scratching, adding up the head count for the different days and volume of people the group spaces could accommodate, lots of testing and bandwidth calculations with the IT department, yet more high-tech ideas and anxious exploration later, we decided on a straightforward analogue solution. Simply to get people to book a seat in the group space, put a cap on the numbers in the office, and the rest to watch from home. And before we knew it, we were ready for the first live session. All our nerves were running high, and Katie watched anxiously as the audience numbers cranked up as the final countdown was upon us. Stand by, everybody. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The numbers in attendance were looking good. But the first one live was the CEO's numbers session, so we expected at least as good figures for the big boss. Time would only tell how the remainder of the week's shows would be received. 7 live stream shows later, we wrapped the event with an emotional highlights reel and credit sequence. But what about the attendance and the engagement? Did it all just drop off after the keynote from the CEO? Of course it didn't. Sure, his was the most viewed content, but you'd expect that. What we didn't expect was for the viewing figures to be so consistently high across the other 6 sessions. Consequently, Katie and her team are experiencing the symptoms of this success. Their profile in the firm is now so high they're struggling to keep up with demand for their services. The key success factor in this event was Katie's shift in perspective. An online conference doesn't need to be a boring death by PowerPoint webinar. She trusted me when I told her that we could make it as slick and well produced as a TV series. This is going to be one heck of a benchmark to beat the next time around. Oh, and there will be a next time. We're just figuring out quite when that should be. We do have a mini team event scheduled for a couple of months' time, which we're going to use as a safe test space to try out some of the easiest to deploy interactive features that we put on ice for this all hands event. So if you want a little preview of what they are and how they work, watch this video next.